Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Uncensored. Blackhand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored. Well, welcome back to another Monday episode. We're dropping fire. Humdingers, humdingers, humdingers. We dropped them all last week and we're going to drop them all this week. All humdingers, folks. So make sure, hype that video, drop a comment, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and most importantly, watch the video in its entirety. So this video has been popping up comments everywhere, right? I get comments like every other video I do, I get comments about the NF. And I want to be the first to admit that I made mistakes in this last video that I did, right? This is what I was taught by carnales, right? And obviously, every organization has their own version of what history is, right? So I was repeating what I had learned about the NF from other carnales, other Mexican Mafia carnales, right? And I've since spoken to real experts in the field, and they pointed out the errors. So I'm going to be the first to admit the video that I did in this is flawed. Some of the stuff is accurate, but there's a lot that's not. So I wanna own that. I don't want to create some kind of fallacy. So I want to acknowledge that first, right? I think it's important that you accept when you're wrong, right? Especially in this profession, right? You can't establish credibility if you don't own your mistakes. And if you make a mistake, you just got to get out there and say, I made a mistake. And I did make mistakes in this video. But we're going to rectify all that. I'm not going to try to teach you about the NF because I wasn't an NF member. That's why I do not like speaking on topics that I am not an expert on. But I do have some experience with the NF. In fact, I got quite a bit of experience with the NF. Some of it I learned, some of it I knew NF members and I interacted with them on a regular basis. But let's get to the comment, folks. Let's get to the comment, right? From Paul Arroyo P9Q. When are you going to do a video on the NF? I think I only seen one video you have done on them, and that's the one I just showed you, right? I think it was a two-parter. And like I said, Paul, there's mistakes in that video, and they pointed out so many mistakes, man. I kind of want to take it down, but I'm not going to because it'll affect the algorithm. So I'm just going to leave it up as an entertainment piece. But I'm going to do that video today. You know, I respond to comments. Just know that, folks. I read all the comments. And if you're talking ish, you're being disrespectful, your comment's going to get deleted. Just flat out. My channel, my rules, that's all there is to it, right? But if you come at me with like a real question and a real comment, like I make episodes off of what you guys suggest. I make content off of what you guys suggest because it really is your channel. And I've said that 1,000 different times, and I truly mean it, that this channel was created by you, the viewers. Without you, this channel is nothing. It's just Rene Enriquez Uncensored with no views, right? So I try to adhere to what you guys want. I don't do that all the time because, you know, I have a schedule to keep and I have other topics that I want to discuss in the genre. But for you, Paul, we're going to do that today. And a couple other guys that make comments. Let's get to the next one. Good afternoon, Renee. I have a question. I know the state of the NF have a truce in the state. I know the state and the NF have a truce in the state. But what about in the feds, such as ADX? Are they in the same building? Do they get to intermingle? And is there a truce in the feds? Absolutely not. The states and the feds are actually a conflict, right? Skip, Sheldon Skip Villanueva, this individual here, one of the generals for the NF, has vociferously opposed a treaty with the Mexican Mafia. In fact, they're separate on BOP yards, right? They don't go to the same yards. They still have a war. but it's a war of words. I mean, they don't get to each other. They haven't assaulted each other. That just doesn't happen because the POP is aware of what's going on and keeps them isolated from each other. In fact, NF has certain yards, Mexican Mafia has certain yards, and all the other groups have certain yards, right? And we'll do a video on that in the near future, but I wanted to answer that question concerning the NF. All this is about the NF today, folks. It's not going to be a very extensive video, but it's going to be accurate, right? Because I'm just clarifying some stuff and responding to people who have commented to me about the NF. And I know Skip is all over Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. He's putting out. I've heard a couple of content creators use this phrase for the NF stuff. It's called filters. The MN does not use that word. They don't send out filters. But I guess the NF does use that terminology, and Skip is sent that out and social media. He doesn't really care if anybody sees it or not. I mean, dude's gangster. And he owns it, right? And props to him for living that gangster lifestyle. I got nothing bad to say about the man. He's living his life as a cartel in the NF, right? And for him, it's eternal war with the organization. I don't foresee the NF in the feds joining hands with the Mexican Mafia as they did in the state. I just don't foresee that coming from Skip. In fact, I've heard rumors and discussions about the BOP having some of the state members on the lista because of the treaty, and the state disregards it, right? So I don't know the depth of that. That's a rank speculation on my part, and I don't want to do that. So that's all I've heard. That's all I know. Skip opposes it. He's the boss in the feds, and he's not having peace over there. So there is no peace in the BOP. The next one was, I don't believe the NF only killed one ME, and the ME killed several NF. I feel like anytime an ME member gets killed, he's now just an associate, not an ME member. After all these years of two organizations at war, the NF only killed one. I don't believe that. Well, that's from Vince. And the last comment was from Roy de los Santos 9525. The question about the truce between BOP and state being at peace or war, right? So this one is from Vince001 that makes the statement about NF only killing one member. Look. This is the truth, bro. This is the truth. I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a carnal. I'm not loyal to the ME. And I don't, I try my very best not to lie. I can't say that I always keep that because, everybody fibs once in a while. And I do too, especially if my wife asks me a question and I don't want to get in trouble. I say, no, I didn't do that, But I believe in a guy has to have veracity in what he says, right? In other words, got to have credibility and believability in what he says. And that's how we built this channel, Vince. We built this channel on truth, right? On truth. I haven't hidden anything. I haven't lied about anything. I've made mistakes, and I've owned those mistakes. But I will not lie. I wouldn't come on here and say that the Mexican Mafia only suffered one loss if that wasn't the case. And I know this might hurt your feelings, and a lot of northern guys are loath to believe that, but that is the truth. The only Mexican Mafia member killed was Cheyenne Cadena. NF has never killed another Mexican Mafia member. You guys call everybody ME. It's like this. Like, watch this. I don't believe the NF only killed one ME, and the ME killed several NF. Anytime an ME member gets killed, he's now just an associate, not an ME member. You guys call everybody MS. An associate's an ME, that's an ME to you, right? And certainly, NF has killed some camaradas, right? Plenty of them, right? But not made guys, dude. And that is reality. That the Mexican Mafia only suffered one loss, and that was because of his rank stupidity. Cheyenne Cadena went out to the tier knowing that Mexican Mafia members were stabbing and killing NF members throughout the Department of Corrections, and still went out there. And then Andre 00723 cosigns for sure, 100%. I'm telling you too, Andre. This is the truth, man. You can look up not anywhere. There's not one documented case of them. Show it to me. Put it online. I'll post it. I swear. If you send me a death certificate or a police report that says NF killed a righteous Mexican Mafia member, and if he's M, I swear I'll put it up on this channel. I'll do a whole episode on it. So, to quell all that, any NF guys or Norteños that believe that MS got killed, what you call MS, right? Then send me the paperwork. Send it to me. I'll put it up. I will put it up here because I have no loyalty to the organization. I've shown that, right? I have no loyalty to the organization. I'm not biased. You know, the NF has killers, but they only kill one carnal. So, here's the heart of the episode, right? A lot of people ask me, did you have interactions with any of the guys from Northern California over the years? I know of a few made guys. Sure, I had a lot of interaction. In fact, one guy, I couldn't find a picture of him. Somebody sent me a picture of Arturo Ramirez, Smiley from Salinas. He was in my pod, and that dude was like a brother to me. He was righteous NF. Smiley from Salinas was NF. And I used to give him carga, and we'd give him, share our packages with him, and we'd chop it up. And Smiley was a really good dude. He was a really good friend of mine. And we understood what was going to happen if the doors opened up. But I think he wouldn't have done anything to me, and I wouldn't have done anything to him. I would have took the flak had the doors opened up. Because Smiley was a good man. I don't know if he's still alive or if he's deceased. I know he went after he left our, I think it was D7, where we were housed together in a pod. It was me, Tecolote, Knockers from Stockton, Smiley from Salinas, and like 4 or 5 other carnales were there. I mean, this was deep M pod. And we were all in this pod. It was all M, like made guys, right? There was only a couple camaradas there. And Jack Morris was one of them. Little Bobby Montenegro from Maravilla, Willie Boy from San Diego, and I think Steve Castillo from Corona was there. Those are the only camaradas. The other 2 people were Knockers from Stockton and Smiley from Salinas, and the rest were all M. We're talking like 6 made carnales there with 2 NF guys, and I think Knockers was Nuestra Raza at the time. He wasn't a made guy yet, but Smiley was a good friend. I mean, he would accept carga from me, and he would get high with me, and I know that was a rule violation. And Knockers would accept the carga from me, but he wouldn't use it. I think all this while Smiley was chilling with us and joking with us and drinking with us, because he would drink Pisto with us the whole 9 yards. And Knockers wouldn't. I think Knockers was reporting on him and getting him put in the hack, because Smiley was going through some difficulties politically. I knew that. But that's the nature of the beast in these organizations. And Smiley ended up moving out of the pod after we all got separated. I heard later on down the line he went to C facility, and they tried to move on him in the cell. They actually broke his arm, which is unfortunate. He was a good dude, man. Really good dude. And I hope he's doing well. If he's deceased, then my condolences to his family members and anybody who knew him. But that's one guy. I couldn't get a picture of him. A content creator sent me a photo, but it just wasn't him. It was Smiley from Salinas, but this guy was way younger. It wasn't Arturo Ramirez, the man that I knew and remembered, right? It just didn't look like him, so I didn't post the picture. I don't want to get attacked by the trolls. So let's go to the next one. The next one is Knockers from Stockton. That's old Knockers right there. Knockers was a little standoffish, right? But we would share packages with him. I would give him carga. We'd offer him pisto. He wouldn't drink. And he was really standoffish. In fact, Tecolote, Night Off for Leticia, I wanted to get this guy. Because Night Off was the tier tender. He was the, what you call porter or tier tender, right? The guy who comes out once or twice a week to clean the showers, sweep the tier, mop the tier. Night Off was the tier tender for a pod. And at one time he went up to knockers and asked him really respectfully and politely, he says, hey, can you please not throw soap in the showers? He would take the little soap pieces that when you finish your bar of soap and throw them on the floor. And knockers wouldn't do it. Knockers kept throwing soap on the floor. And Daryl wanted to get him badly. Like badly. I remember we had a conversation and I said, what's up? They opened the doors on this guy, right? And he says, I know what I'm going to do. And that's all he said. That's all Tecolote said, right? And I already knew, all right, we're going to whack this guy. Because if Daryl's going, I'm going, right? It didn't matter that the guy didn't pose a threat to us. He didn't pose a threat to us. You know, we were deep in that block, and we had weapons. We had a lot of weapons, right? And this guy did not pose a threat to us. Besides, it was going to be 2-on-1, and we probably would have took him out if they opened up the doors. But I was kind of hoping that they didn't, because I kind of like knockers, right? Even though he was kind of a jerk at times, right? He was kind of standoffish. And he had that norteño mentality, right? And you get that sometimes from dudes from the north. That's just what I noticed, that they have like a built-in bias towards made Mexican Mafia guys, right? And I understand it, right? But I never felt that way about Northerners. I really never did, right? Even some of the Nuestra Familia guys, I liked them, you know? There's not many I really dealt with. There's very few that I dealt with. I mean, I met a bunch of them and the peace talks in 2000, but we'll get into that in a second. And but Knockers was on the short list with Daryl, which meant he was on the short list with me because I was Daryl Selly because he kept throwing soap on the floor in the shower. So we were going to get him as soon as they opened up the doors, if they opened up the doors. But thankfully for him, they never opened up the doors. I heard that Knockers actually became a carnal, and then he got made, right? He got made a carnal, and then flipped, right? And good for him. Good for him. He did the right thing, John. That's John Musquiz. That's his name, John Musquiz. And I remember the name because it was so unique and odd. I never heard it before, right? Very unique name. And I heard he flipped. He flipped on the NF. He may have testified. But then I heard he got paroled and violated. I'm not sure if that's true or accurate, but good for you, John. Peace be with you, brother. You made the right decision. Live your life in peace. And I hope you're doing well. The next guy is this guy, Pinky, right? This is Pinky. I met Pinky during the peace talks in 2000. They allowed me, Danny Boy, and Jaco Padilla, along with some AB guys and some BTF guys, to go walk around the entire shoe. And I met Pinky there. I met Cuete. I met, I believe, Huesos, and a couple of other high-ranking guys, all the bosses, right? And he was very hesitant to talk to us. Like, he says, hey, man, we're under indictment. We can't really talk about anything like this. And they just kind of backed away from the door. But I met him and knew who he was. And obviously we heard about this guy being one of the generals. I'm not even sure if that's accurate, so I don't want to put it out there that he was. But he was one of the main guys that the Cardenas always talked about, right? Pinky, and I met him during the peace talks. And that was the extent of my interaction with him. I never, was in a pod with him. I never had more than those few words that I exchanged with him at the door when the cops let us run around every pod in Pelican Bay, which was immediately sus, right, to everybody. Like, what are you doing in here? Why are they letting you guys walk around? I would have been suspect, right? But it was real. They let us go walk around the entire shoe in 2000, right before I flipped. The next guy I knew was this guy, Epitacio Cortina. Epitacio Cortina. This is Epi. I forgot where he was from, but I met him in THU after we dropped out, right? He was in Category 2 NF guy. I don't even know if they have the Cat 1 through 3 anymore. I don't know anything about that, right? I heard they changed the little templates which they use, but again, I'm not an NF expert. I don't profess to be, and that's why I don't like doing videos on other organizations. I don't have the knowledge of them that I do of my own organization, or the one that I used to be from, right? But Epi was an NF guy, and he was a clerk in the education. We had a gym there at THU. I had to go there for a way station. They kept me there for like 30 to 60 days. They wanted me to integrate with inmates. And I met Epi. I really liked him, right? He was very articulate, very intelligent. I saw him. He did some interviews on MSNBC or Lockup Raw or something like that, right? And and I remember them. And I remember this little tattoo. That's an X14 right there under his eye. That's an X14, X4, excuse me, for Roman X for the 10 and then the number 4 for 14. And he was articulate, he was intelligent. He had that little job wired there at the gym, and he kind of controlled that right there. And I heard he paroled and immediately violated for substance abuse, which is kind of unfortunate. You know, I would hope that Epi would get his ish together and, you know, live free, man, because there's nothing like living free, Epi. If you're out there living your life, live free, stay away from that stuff, bro. There's so much happiness in sobriety. Well, not sobriety, being clean, right? Because I take a drink every now and again, and I really enjoy it. Everything in moderation, brother. Everything in moderation. All right, that's the other NF guy I knew. And this guy I met, this is Dimas de Leon. I think that's his name. Diablo. He was an NF guy, right? And I met him in a van. We're going to Sutter Coast Hospital, right? And I think he was shocked that I talked to him. I really kind of thought that. I got that feeling. Like, I'm a pretty social guy, right? I'll talk to anybody. I don't care if they're NF, BGF, whatever. They treat me with respect. I'm going to treat them with respect. And everybody knew that. I was a pretty approachable person, right? And he introduced himself as Diablo from the NF or whatever he was, right? And I introduced myself as Boxer from the MA. And we just chopped it up, small talk, you know, like, where you at and how you doing? I wasn't trying to pump for info. I think that's what I always felt, like Norteños and NF always thought we were trying to gain intel. And I couldn't care less. None of the Cardenales could care less. Nobody was trying to dissect their organization. Nobody was trying to learn about it. Nobody was trying to count the members. None of that stuff. There was none of that paramilitary stuff going on with the Mexican Mafia. And I felt like he was very hesitant to discuss stuff around me. But I think we went on a van a couple times. And that's the only interaction I ever had with Diablo. But he seemed like a likable, respectful guy. He was a Cardenal. I was a Cardenal. We just happened to be from different organizations, right? And then later, I see this, right? He does an interview on a specific channel that I will not name here. But I want to run part of this and dissect it for you, right? He's talking about all the conflict and fights that he had in prison. And I watched this interview, and it sounds like a narrative. It's not an interview, it's a narrative. This is written, and he's reading off a written script, right? You could just tell from the cadence and the tempo that it's not spontaneous, because I am spontaneous. I speak spontaneously. That's where you get the uhs and ums and all that stuff, right? I don't edit none of that crap out. There you go. There's one right there. So let's listen to what he has to say, because somebody made a comment on the channel that this guy was claiming to have beaten me up under the stairs in Pelican Bay. And I was like, nah, why would he do that? I never got in a fight with this guy. I mean, I liked him. You know, I met him. He was okay. You know, he was an enemy, but I didn't have like, I wouldn't lie about him. And I think he might be confused with somebody else here. But let's listen to what he has to say.
It was a good fight. I remember I put my boxers back on, grabbed my clothes in one hand and my shoes in the other, and as I turned toward my cell, my enemy's door opened. I threw my shoes at one and started fighting with the other. As I said, it was a good fight. At another time, they inadvertently, again, opened my door. Dude didn't run in, so I ran out on the tier and beat him under the stairs.
So he's talking about multiple events. The first time he got in a fight with two guys, and then this instance, he got in a fight with a guy under the stairs. Anybody who's been to Pelican Bay or seen an image of Pelican Bay, they have a stairwell, and that's where you want to book somebody, or that's where you want to fight, because they have a less of a vantage point, and they might not shoot you there. So at that time, they were shooting people. But let's hear what he says here. It's really interesting.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
What's funny about this one is his plaquiazo was boxer, and it just seemed funny to me that he couldn't fight. Now, before I go any further, let me take you back to when I got shot with the 9mm at Corcoran shoe. Two things.
So that is a little, I think, disingenuous, right? Because he's suggesting that it was me, and Look, if I got in a fight with a guy and he whooped my ass, I'd say it. Hey, dude, whoop my ass, right? I ain't got a problem with that, but I never fought with this guy. And if that's the case, if that really is the case, that he fought me, he's got a 115 then, right? Or he's got a chrono. And my name would be on it as the victim of an assault, right? Or the victim of mutual combat, because that's the way it works. You get a CDCR, it's called an RVR, CDC 115, for any instance where there's violence used or use of force, right? You get a rules violation report, you get it. So if that's the case, if it was Boxer, like he's saying, then he should have that RVR and be able to produce it. And I'm not calling him out. Maybe it was a guy named Boxer, because there's a few boxers there. I mean, there's Boxer Tolento, there was Boxer from 18th Street. There's a couple of boxers there, right? So that's maybe what he's talking about. But to leave it dangling out like that, I think is a bit disingenuous. And I'm not criticizing his bona fides or veracity of what he's saying. He could have very well fought a guy named Boxer. I'm just here to clarify that it wasn't me. That wasn't me. And that's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. That's my dealings with Dimas de Leon in the van on the way to Center Coast. We were both having surgery or MRIs or something. I had so many surgeries that I can't even remember what it was for. But I do remember him. And I remember we had a good little chat, because we sat in the van for hours. You sit in the van, then they pull out one guy who's treated, or you go into if you're going to stay the night, you go in there. But we had quite a bit of time together, and we never got in a fight. So that's anybody who's believing that segment of the interview that it was me, it was not. I'm here to tell you. Because if it was true, if dude, beat me up under the stairs, like he's saying, he's not saying it's me, he's just saying it's Boxer, right? And that's a catchphrase, right? Boxer. That's a catchphrase. It wasn't me. All right. I'm not going to protest anymore on that. I don't need to. I know what the truth is. But that'll wrap it up on my experiences with the NF. There's a couple others that I met throughout the time. We'll get to that in a later episode. I just wanted to give you those little profiles of these guys and my interactions with them. But I want to give you a real heads up of what's coming up. Death Row Joe! Yep, we got some exclusive content on Death Row Joe. But that's going to come in another episode. I just want you to know that for everybody wanting information on the Nuestra Familia, I'm only going to give you what my experience was, right? That's I don't want to make videos about what I was taught about the organization. I want to show you what's fact, right? And that's what this video was today. And we're going to bring you one on Death Row Joe soon. Hope you really enjoyed that video, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think, folks. As always, drop a comment. Let me know if you like this episode and episodes like this. I love doing these little profiles on people, even though these aren't full blown out profiles. It's my interactions with them. And that'll do it for the day, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, stay safe. Peace out.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Boots.